There are only colleagues in the supervising officer. So he says
You should be able to minimize this part. Okay, good afternoon and welcome back. After a delicious lunch, we are coming back to the conference. And we are going to have two papers in this session. The first is by Camille Wilhelm, who came all the way from the University of Strasbourg, France. And she will be speaking about horses at the Royal Studs of Lorraine in the 18th century. And the second paper will be by Miriam Wilby, one of the conference organizers. She will be talking about maiden races. So if you're okay, we'll keep the question discussion till the end.
Yeah.
Okay. Camille, the floor is for you.
Thank you. On the 24th December 1779, Monsieur de Compagno, Commissioner Inspector of the Royal Studs of Lorraine, complained to the intendant of the three bishoprics that he had not reserved an Arab stallion to cover the mares in each province. And I don't know if given the date, he was expecting a Christmas present from the intendant, but in any case, the Compagno justified its choice by the fact that Arabian stallions were horses that will be our roots for the future, so in French, des chevaux qui nous seroient des souches pour l'avenir. But the Compagno never got his Arabian stallion. I think this quote, taken from a letter I found in the National Archives in Paris, is a good illustration of the situation in the province of Lorraine in the 18th century. As it was not considered to be a major horse-producing region for France, it was not given any good stallions to regenerate its local breed. And that's why I decided to call my master thesis Small, Deformed, Stupid, and Very Bad Horses, to talk about horses in Lorraine from the 15th to the 18th century. It's certainly not a very glorious title, but it does illustrate the misery of the local breed. The paper I am presenting today to you is partly based on this master thesis, which then enabled me to embark on a broader study, as I have just started my first year of a doctoral thesis in history on the veterinary care on the administration of the Royal Studs from 1665 to 1791, but this time for the whole of the Kingdom of France. So let's get back to our subject. I chose the geographical setting because Lorraine has proved to have a very important equestrian heritage, but one that is still underestimated both by the king of the time and by historians today. Indeed, only 3 rather mediocre academic works on the horses in Lorraine have been produced in over a century. When I talk about Lorraine, I am referring to a region in the east of France, bordering Luxembourg, Belgium, Alsace, Germany, Champagne, and Franche-Comté, which has always been at the heart of trade and war. It comprised 2 duchies of Bar and Lorraine, as you can see, which were united under the name of the Generality of Nancy, and the 3 bishoprics united under the name of the Generality of Metz. The 3 bishoprics became French with the Treaty of Westphalia, so at the end of the 30 Years' War in 1648, while the duchies of Lorraine and Bar had to wait until the death of the Duke Stanislas Czesinski, King of Poland and last Duke of Lorraine in 1766. So today, we will study Lorraine from 1767, so the year after its annexation to France, to 1791. So therefore, during the period, it was submitted to the French administration of the Royal Studs. This institution was created in 1665 by the Minister Colbert, so under King Louis XIV, and applies to all the provinces of the kingdom. To sum up, French horses had a bad reputation and were too small for the army. The French state, known for its many wars, had to import better horses, and to avoid the financial hemorrhage, Colbert launched this institution. The way it worked was really simple. Several hundred top French stallions were regularly bought by the king, so they became royal stallions, which were placed in the royal stud farms. So there are 5 in France, including one in Lorraine at Rosières. The stallions covered the mares of all the owners of the kingdom to give a larger size to the new generation of horses. The administration continued until 1791, when it was abolished by the French Revolution. The Studs administration therefore played a central role. Played a central role in the government. The quantity of quality of the sources illustrate that it was indeed highly organized and carried out a real archiving task. The main collections of sources are in the Vosges Departmental Archives in Épinal and the Meurthe-et-Moselle Departmental Archives in Nancy, as well as the National Archives in Paris. The nature of sources is very diverse, as you can see, so this makes the historian task very difficult, but extremely interesting. It's perhaps this large documentation that so frightens French historians that they decided not to deal with the history of horses. The very mention of institutions linked to horses, even though they are the lifeblood of the kingdom, are absent from all the major works on French history or have only been the subject of administrative studies, which totally forget horses. My aim in this talk is therefore to show that if we are prepared to work almost exclusively with archival sources, we can study both the administrative and animal management of horses by the administration of the Royal Studs in this forgotten province. We can also see its evolution on legacy and the impact of veterinary knowledge to regenerate the local breed. To do this, we will begin with an administrative approach, then turn to the most novel part, which is the veterinary study of horses, followed by the legacy of the administration of the Royal Studs. So, we have a little problem of slide. The administrators despised Lorraine horses. They say that the breed was excessively small, puny, and deformed, and saw its reproduction as an epidemic for our province, to quote the most famous phrases used in the letters sent by the various administrators. But the Lorraine horse was, according to the administrators, a mirror image of its peasant owner. Both were said to be affected by cretinism, which is a disease that occurs at altitude and is responsible for the short side of people and horses, but also by inbreeding, which has disastrous consequences for the development of body and mind. These horses, known as artars, were too small for armies and too weak for training, and didn't meet any criteria, especially during the Enlightenment period, when bourgeois theories on the ideal geometric horse were given a great deal of importance. For example, the town of Lunéville attested that in 1788, over 87% of its horses were fit to fire cannons, but only 0.33% were big enough to be enrolled in the king's armies. Before Lorraine was incorporated into France, the dukes had already noticed this and imported good foreign stallions to improve the local breed. To this end, the principal dukes set up studs in the Vosges mountains, about 10. It was not until 1703 that breeding was better organized, with Duke Leopold I deciding to breed the Neufchâteau and Saralbe stud farms on the German border. For Saralbe, I have been able to find records of birth of Pipizanos. We have a specialist here. The same breed as those at the Vienna Equestrian Academy, so there is a new awareness of the stud book. However, the stud didn't survive, as Leopold's son, the Duke François III, became Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire. So in 1736, for his marriage to Maria Theresa of Austria, he left for the empire and took all the horses with him. So this was the last time that Ducal Lorraine would have any real breeding on its land. And it was not until the death of the last Duke, Stanislas, and the annexation of Lorraine to France that the Royal Studs were finally established. The administration of the Royal Studs, which was founded in 1665 by Colbert, stood out for its ability to administer the province horses. From the outset, the Generality of Nancy was home to France's 5 Royal Stud farms at Rosières. The Generality of Metz didn't have a real Royal Stud farms, as it was considered too costly, but it did have 2 establishments in Metz, Vatronville, and Annonay. It was also in these places that the horses gathered that all the conflicts were played out, as the stud remains an honorary and coveted office given by the king, and which ensured numerous privileges. In addition, the royal administration wouldn't accept the fact that until 1785, there was a own director for the Studs of Lorraine. However, the central depots were not the only one to house the horses, as there were too few of them in relation to the dispersed horse population. During the breeding season, the stallions could also be distributed to secondary depots, as you can see. Stallions need to be brought closer to the mares' owners, who are obliged to cover the mares once they have been selected. Historians never mention it, I don't know, but in rural cycles, we can speak of a genuine equine calendar that was essential for managing the time of year. Royal stallions and good private stallions, which were approved by the commissioner inspector of the stud, could also be kept by stallions guards who promised to look after them and have them covered in exchange for various benefits. In 1768, this system accounted for only 32% of stallion placement in the Generality of Nancy, whereas it was the case for more than 93% of stallions in the Generality of Metz in the same year. In order to know everything about the stallions, the Royal Studs administration was able to impose itself to an important administrative management, and the different sources of which bear witness to the monitoring of the horses. By linking these different documents, I was able to draw up a prosopography of the stallions for the two generators. This makes it possible to draw up a real gallery of horses in order to place them at the center of the study and to identify, for example, preferences in terms of origins. For example, 54% of stallions in the three bishoprics were Norman, and their identity. The administrators also seem to carry out this task close to the horses, as I found pieces of straw in the breeding registers. Unfortunately, Lorraine doesn't seem to be the best at keeping its horses. In fact, in 1770, de la Galazière, so the intendant of Lorraine and the director of the Lorraine Studs, was reprimanded when he announced in a letter that in 1 year, he had lost a royal groomer and 7 royal stallions. He was told that you didn't have a very expert farrier, nor a very attentive people, or there were some vices in the air, in the water, or in the fodder. Indeed, these are the reasons most often used to explain the loss of so many horses. Overall, Monsieur estimated that in Lorraine, in a common year, around 24,000 horses died, not counting death due to old age, whereas there were only about 110,000 horses in the province. In the 18th century, Lorraine was the home of La Fils, a highly reputed veterinarian. However, he was disliked by the French government because he didn't conform to the teachings of the Royal Veterinary Schools. The schools were set up by the King's Equerry Bourgelat and the Ministère Bertin. The first was founded in Lyon in 1762, the second in Alfort in 1766, and the third in Limoges, but it failed. Bourgelat's goal was to get students, who were often the sons of farriers, to forget the traditions of the theory of humors and rationalize their veterinary knowledge. The French provinces had to send their students to these royal veterinary schools and found them. Inspectors of the studs were also required to work there for 2 years. While the majority of students became basic vets, the best had to work for the horses in the Royal Studs. For Lorraine, I am fortunate enough to have been able to draw up a portrait of the various vets of the Royal Studs, but only from the 1780s onwards. For Nancy, I traced the careers of Sébastien Pigot, Jean-Charles Mayer, and Gérard, and for Metz, for Claude Tribou and Henri Messieux. These are the vets who are fully committed to improving and conserving the local breed. What is interesting about Lorraine is that it was the last French province to be integrated into the Kingdom of France and subjected to the Royal Studs before the French Revolution. The fact that it was integrated at the same time as the creation of the Royal Veterinary Schools can be seen from the fact that, unlike the other regions I have already been able to explore, the documentation was much more institutionalized and focused on the veterinary aspect. Lorraine horses are regularly injured, either because of the hard work they do every day or because of their poor living conditions. Sources show that the horses regularly suffer stomach pains and colics. Episodes such as anthrax, parsin, rabies, and glanders were also very dangerous, as affected horses generally had to be killed to prevent them from contaminating the others. When the horses died, the question arose of how to deal with the corpses in the province because the meat cannot be eaten, as Christian France has had a ban on horse eating. The carcasses therefore had to be buried far from dwellings and above all, several meters deep. The archives sometimes contain appalling cases of refusal to bury horses properly. However, horses of the Royal Studs don't receive the same treatment. For example, the administration made autopsies of Royal stallions compulsory. The first autopsy I have found for Lorraine dates from 1782, so the year of the first identity of a royal veterinarian. This shows that the two institutions worked together to use their progress to improve the local breed. Overall, 50% of autopsies revealed fatal digestive disorders. There were also many cases of necrosis, which clearly showed that the body had time to decompose from the inside. Veterinarians were also really interested in fundamental debates, in particular the question of the role of the mares in reproduction, since it was generally accepted that it was the stallions who gave all the good qualities to the foal. The Lorraine's intendants, so de la Galaisière and de Calonne, were very involved in breeding, and they were against this French opinion. In fact, they asked on numerous occasions, how can we have to train war horses with foals born in a poor peasant life, but having one of his pony mouths covered by a beautiful French horse? The scientific revival also raises questions about the importance of the choice of breeding breed and the faults and defects that can be hereditary. Veterinarians did, however, agree on one point. The neglect of horses was a huge scourge when it came to create a new breed. In Ainville, for example, in March 1789, 56% of the horses of the stallions guards were in poor condition, according to the administrators. It was for this reason that the two institutions worked together to increase the chances to produce a good Lorraine breed. I have seen on numerous occasions that as a result of overbreeding, stallions can suffer joints and other disorders such as Gluck's or paraphimosis, like for the stallion Le Crispin in 1787. Stallions can also be injured by recalcitrant mares, and all these factors appear to be the main reasons of reforming stallions. I have found auctions records of stallions that are no longer good enough to breed, but are still in good condition to work in the fields until the day. There were also many transport accidents. I have found a case, that of the captain in May 1785, who had his foot broken by another stallion. The grooms decided to kill him and asked the farmer for a rifle to shoot him, and then for a saw to cut off the broken leg and take it at home as evidence. For the mares, the archives are less insistent on the damage. The farmers prevented the mares from reproducing properly because, contrary to royal orders, they made them work when they were in fall. The mares were physically unfit to be pregnant. What's more, the mares could be injured during the covering process, like La Limousine in 1775, who had a rump broken, or they could refuse to be covered or be unable to hold foals. They can also easily fall victim to abortion by stallions not approved by the owners. Births were also a very difficult time. In 1769, for example, 26% of mares gave birth to dead foals in the Neuchâtel subjugations. There were also monstrous births. It's at the right of the screen. For example, the birth of the Cyclops foal in 1770, which had only a hole for a mouth and an eye in the middle of its forehead, and which survived for 3 days. The documents clearly show that attempts were made to rationalize this type of events in order to avoid them, as they were detrimental to the creation of a new breed. In 1789, the French Revolution broke out and the administration of the Royal Studs didn't survive. I found the auction records for the Stallions of Lorraine, dated the 12th January 1791, so 8 days after the official proclamation of the end of the Royal Studs. The results were harsh for the administration in Lorraine. In fact, in 1772 and 1776, only 1,257 foals were born in Nancy and 996 in Metz, which was a really low number, especially as they were of poor quality. What's more, the Studs administration was unable to improve and above all to rehabilitate the arta, which continued to suffer from its bad reputation until the end of the 19th century, when it died out for good. These failures were therefore fronted by the population, who saw their investment as a loss in this already poor society, as can be seen from the numerous criticism in the Cahiers de Doléances, which showed the discontent of the population sometime before the revolution troubles. This shows that equine policy had a real impact on political life of France and Lorraine. The Studs were a great disappointment to the province. The province's huge expenditure on administration was frightening. The people were disgusted with the privileges of the stallion guards. The omnipresence of mere inspections by the commissioner inspector disrupted the calendar of peasant society. Foreign stallions had not succeeded in improving the breed. And I found very many letters who show that the administration and the farmers didn't have the same goal for the breed, which led to numerous disputes. And when the administration didn't work, each criticized the other. Also, the administration of the Studs in Lorraine was a fairly short experiment lasting around 20 years. It seems to have left its mark on people's minds. Napoleon Bonaparte transformed the Royal Studs into the Imperial Studs in 1806. In 1874, they became the National Studs before being reformed again in 2010. But today, they have more a sporting mission and heritage continuity rather than a true reproductive mission. The Rosières stud farm is still alive and is an important legacy of the administration. Its original riding arena is still in place and continues to be used, notably for national and international dressage and show jumping competitions. It's a pleasant place where you can feel its history in the walls. And in fact, going to dressage competition there made me want to find more about its story. And for me, Rosières stud is the perfect compromise between my sportive life as a dressage rider and horse owner and my student life as a researcher in history. In the area of Metz, the passage of the Royal Studs seems to have been less significant. Horses seems to have had more functional role in society rather than a genuine management policy for the elites. On the other hand, Lorraine seems to have returned a number of ancestral rituals. For example, in the 1950s, the veterinarian Michel Hachet described gestures similar to those practices in the Swiss region in the 18th century. For example, to ensure the good health for the foals, the owner will cut the hair of the foal's rump in the shape of a small protective cross. And maybe that the administrators of the Royal Studs should have done it to carry their mission successfully. In conclusion, I hope that this brief presentation has enabled you to understand the issues and the interest of the study of the equine policy of a province that is always left out. And getting a professor interested in this subject is very complex, at least in France. I was lucky to find one, but it's urgent that credit be given to young researchers who wish to work on this subject in France. More generally, there are associations and projects being set up in France, as you can see, on this equestrian culture, but they generally leave little room for the young researchers. So I'm very proud to be part of the new generation who are going to try to go a little deeper in this subject. On the other hand, I found that the subjects are of increasing interest to the general public, particularly with the questions surrounding the mistreatments in equestrian sports, or with the resurgence of the classical figures such as Gaucher, de la Guérinière, de Puvinel, or the Lorraine lot. But unfortunately, most of the work produced by horse lovers leads to historical aberrations because they have no scientific training. So it's therefore urgent that historians work like the good administrators of the Royal Studs in order to produce a true history. So we need to have a good method of knowledge and to enjoy our work. Thank you.
Great work in the Alzheimer's. Thank you, Camille, for this exciting presentation. And you can see some parallels with the previous session, Arabians, because they also had Arabians. Some of them, and of course, it's very topical, especially in the light of the Olympic Games and all those scandals about dressage. So I'm sure people will want to ask some questions and have comments. Now we are going to our second paper,